All right. So here we are, day two. I moved the camera yesterday. I had it on my little tripod here. Today, I think this will be a little bit better because it'll feel like I'm looking at you guys more rather than looking away. So yesterday we got into a few questions. For the most part, I went over some notes I had about different like mechanics for different games and stuff like that. But towards the end, we got into some good stuff. I talked about prepping for games, prepping to improvise rather than prepping for story. I talked about the rule of three. So you prep three things, three places, three people per place, and then for each person, you prep some information about them, a quirk about them, personality trait, things like that. And that's like a good foundation. And I got that from the Lazy Dungeon Master book that I had read about 6 years ago, as well as John For's role-playing tips. If you're not part of that and you're into role-playing games, you need to go over there. His website. You can sign up for his newsletter. He sends out good stuff pretty frequently. I'll be honest, I don't read most of them anymore, but I used to read them every time they came through. So good stuff over there. So today I would like to talk more about things like that. But ultimately, if you guys ask any other questions, you have anything else on your mind, I'll do my best to answer those. If you don't even want to talk about RPGs, so you want to talk about life, if you have questions for me, in general, that's fine too. Get to know me, and we can do that as well. So yeah, it should be a good day though. I've been looking forward to doing this since yesterday. I think yesterday was a lot of fun. Got a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about. You know, I enjoy these sessions with you guys, so it allows me to interact with you a little more so than just putting out a video and then you guys commenting below. So with that, let me pull up my document. I only had a few questions posed in advance, but I did put them in a document. I put down, I think there were only like 2 or 3. There were a couple that people asked that I didn't think were very good, so I didn't put them in here. Like people with joke questions, like Monty Python quotes, like what is the land speed velocity, and stuff like that. So, anyways, I'm gonna wait a second before I jump into these, but I have one from Lasagna Druid from my Discord, and I have one from Omnisci, who is another YouTuber who also has, he's also on my Discord. So if you're interested, we have quite a few people on our Discord. I want to say, last I checked, it was at 80. Looking at it right now, yeah, we're at about 85 members on the Discord. So if you're interested, feel free to go over there and check that out. And get involved in games. We just set up a Zweihander game, which is like a stripped down version of Warhammer, for Friday night that we will be playing right here on this channel, which Friday's tomorrow. So I still haven't made the overlay for it yet, but we will be playing that tomorrow. And, oh, okay. My friend Brett on the Discord said, I would join, but I'm involved in work. Hey, I hear you, man. Gotta do what you gotta do. So, I am not involved in work right now. I can't do my job from home because we're not able to sell cars from home, unfortunately. But if you guys are interested in buying a car, when this is all said and done, I can happily help you. It'd be nice if the Detroit Lions did a good job this year in the draft. I don't have a lot of faith on that either. Looks like I got a voicemail. What could this be? Looks like it's from Seattle. So it's probably Zillow. Zillow calls me, even though I've told them to stop calling me because I'm not in real estate anymore, but they still call me a lot. They must not believe me. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, so I brought in some books. I brought in the Dungeon Master Guide, the Monster Manual Player's Handbook, brought in my, I think this is my adventure creation binder. If it's not, then I grabbed the wrong one. It is my old version of my adventure creation binder. So I do have that here. I have my book for the monsters know what they're doing. I have the books that I had yesterday. So if anyone has any questions about those, I can jump into those as well. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Give me a like. And, you know, if I get enough likes, we'll continue doing this. So that's kind of how this goes. Yeah, my son says, give me 100,000 likes. If I can hit 100,000 likes, then that'll be pretty impressive. If I can get 100,000 subscribers, that would be impressive. Cool, bud. All right, so it's been a crazy week, I think, for a lot of people out there. I see friends who don't have kids who seem bored, and I see friends who have kids who seem to be at their wits' end, wishing they could be alone, it seems. So nobody is content with their situation. You know, you got some people itching to get back to work. I know.
Drink something.
Yeah, I have water. All right, why don't you go play, buddy? You know, you have people itching to get back to work, whether it's for money or because, again, they just don't like feeling cooped up. I feel cooped up. I'm not necessarily itching to go back to work because I don't really want to interact with people right now physically. However, I do miss my in-person games. So there is that. Like, I really wish we could play our Descent game right now. I really wish we could play our Adventures of Blackrock game right now. That's stuff that, for me, you know, it's a nice escape being able to sit down with some friends and roll some dice and have some fun, you know. But can't do that right now. So that's okay. That's all right. We're making do with what we can do. But like I said, Friday we got an online game. Online games are fun. Don't get me wrong. I've always enjoyed them. Sometimes I enjoy them more than my in-person games. But they're not the same. They're just not, you know. They can help socially, but they just don't always fill the void. You know what I'm saying? And there's times where I don't feel like playing in person. I'd rather play online, right? But right now, it would be nice to play in person. So, you know, we'll see how things go. I have a feeling I'm probably gonna cancel all in-person games or move them to online for the next 2 months, probably at least. I'm not as worried about this as my wife is. My wife is very worried about it. Yep, go drink it over there. Yeah, yep. I'm not as worried about it. She's way more worried about it. She doesn't even want me going to a grocery store. She wants, you know, people to bring us groceries and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, I can go once a week. It's not a big deal. Like I stay away from people at the store right now. Like I get home or I get in the car and we've got sanitizer in the car. Put it on my hands, all over the steering wheel, all over the shifter. Like we're good. You know, I have control over that. I don't have control over what people are doing bringing me groceries. So, hey, buddy, go play, bud. Right now, I'm trying to do this. Yeah, but I'm talking to a lot of people. Just go play. Plus, you're being loud and you're clanking on the floor. You're going to wake Gabe up. So anyways, so some of the stuff I kind of wanted to talk about, though. I've turned the volume down, bud. Yesterday I briefly touched on how prep has been difficult for me for a while now, and I had my system figured out and I was doing well with it for a while, and then I got back into playing online this year and was good, and then it struggled, so I've kind of waffled on it back and forth, right, where I've had my system and I've gotten away from it. And one of the things about it was that with the way I used to do things is I used to have all my notes. I used to have a folder with 3 tabs, and you could put like protective sheets in the middle and stuff. And I would keep copies of the player character sheets in the back. And so I would have like a timeline of things that were happening in the world, no matter what was happening. You know, players could stop things and alter it, but I had a timeline, right? That was the first sheet of my protective sheet. Then I have, like, on the second sheet, I would have just random names sorted by class, by race, or not class, but by race and gender. And then I'd have, like, random rumors and hooks and stuff on a third protective sheet. So all that was in the middle. Inside the left pocket, I would keep, like, what I would call settlement sheets. So any of the cities or villages that the players visited or were surrounding the places they were at, that they could easily get to, like, you know, in a session, right? And so I'd have these settlement sheets in there. I'd have NPC sheets, you know, kept in order with the settlements they were in, and things like that. And that helped me improvise really well, and keep things kind of on track. That was what I used to use back in 2015, where I felt like I was really doing a good job DMing. I got away from that. I got, you know, over a couple of years, it's like I quit doing as much of that. And I started saying, okay, this is where the players are. This is where they're going. This is where the session ended. That's how I started doing prep then. And that kind of worked, but it was more rigid. It was more railroad. And so I started to tweak that a little bit. And we ended up, you know, we had some good sessions that way. You know, I found that worked really well with specific groups, more so than others. But if I had a good role-playing group, it felt too structured. And so if I have a group that's really into role-playing and taking the story in different directions, then, you know, that wasn't the way to go. So, anyways. So, did that for a while. But this year, when we started playing the Forgotten Throne game, I didn't make a folder or binder or anything. I just had in my head what I knew my campaign was kind of, the background was happening. And then I had a little bit about the city they were in, but like my prep sucked early on. And luckily my players were pushing that story early on. And so then I had a couple sessions where I feel like it kind of screeched and it was like, oh crap, that's because I screwed up. And so I reeled myself back in and I started doing better again. So, you know, kind of learning as I go again. I've ran so many games. I've played in so many games. I feel like I have a lot of ideas that are fairly decent. But when it comes down to it, you know, when you take some time off from running and playing games, then you don't it's like you get not rusty, but you forget what was working for you sometimes. At least I did. So I'm just happy that I figured that out and that I'm able to do a good job with that again. And I also think at times I was trying to do too much. I was trying to run so many games in such a short period of time that it wasn't leaving a lot of time to prep the way I know I should. So I've had sessions where I've sat down to prep and I've spent like 2 nights, you know, about 5-6 hours prepping. And then the day comes where we're about to play the game and I'm not happy with what I prepped. And I basically just start from scratch. That is the worst feeling. And that is when you prep for story. That doesn't happen when you're prepping to improvise. So the fact that I figured that out and I've started fixing that has been huge, you know? I don't know how other people prep necessarily. Everyone, I think, does it differently. But prepping for story is good, and especially if that's what your strengths are suited for. I think my wife does more prep for story rather than improvise. You know, I feel like she definitely plans what's going to happen throughout a session and 2 sessions ahead. You know what I mean? Whereas I definitely don't do that as much. You know, I have an idea. In fact, at the end of every session, I ask my players, where do you think you guys are going to go when you finish what you're doing? Or if we did finish things, where do you think you're going next session? and I let them tell me. And then at the start of the next session, I remind them what they said last time. Like, hey, you said that you were going to do ABC. And so then that one puts them at the start of the next session exactly where they were at the end. They're like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then I ask them, do you remember why you were doing that? If they say yes, cool, and whatever. I'll then sometimes let them recap the last session because I think that's helpful for their memory. And then we get into it, right? And, the session goes on. Obviously, because I knew where they were going, I was able to prep some things. If it's a dungeon crawl, obviously, or not a dungeon crawl, but a dungeon or a set place, like a very specific place they were going, I'm able to prep more detail. If it's more open and they're going, say, oh, well, we want to go to this city. Well, I can prep stuff for that, but in that situation, it's more prepping to improvise rather than prepping for story. So they go to the city, right? They get all these hooks. Because again, I have that rule of 3. Every city will have at least 3 NPCs. Each NPC will have some sort of hook, some sort of, thing about them, whatever. But I also have things in those cities that are extra. I'll have a bounty board or a job board. Sometimes just from the role play in the city, I will come up with extra things as well. Sometimes just something will pop in my head, and so I just randomly will throw a hook out there. And that always goes well too. We've picked up a lot of different things over the years in my games because of just the role play, which is great. So having, I think, the ability to improvise is not always just a DM skill. It's prep. So, I think that's an important thing to consider. And I'm not saying do all your prep to improvise or all your prep to, do a story. Maybe do a little bit of both. While you're working on your improvisation notes, maybe you think of something story-wise you want to add. Again, I use a timeline. When I'm starting a campaign, I try to do a timeline up front of everything that's going to possibly happen in the world if the players don't do anything. So this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. Boom, 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 right? And I usually make it a page to 2 pages, and that's the idea of the campaign. And as the players interact with that, it changes the timeline. It changes my outline. And so then, if I have my outline, I know what's going on. I know what the motivations of the bad guys are. I know what the motivations of anything on that outline is. And so then the improvisation notes that are by session can coincide with that and also lead them in directions to knock off that. Some of the improvisation could be side quests, So there's a lot of ways to do that. Chris Drews says, when I first started playing a few years ago, I thought DMs had hours and hours of stuff prepped ahead, LOL. Yeah. and the funny thing is when people start, I think you prep way more than you should. Definitely. I know when I started, I used to try and write a story. And this is the first adventure. This is the second adventure. It was very... but then I struggled with, well, how do I make the player care enough to go to that place? And so then it just was it was very, very linear, very railroady. I figured it out pretty quick, though, I think. Unfortunately, trying to find the style that works for you is difficult. Wally DM says, agreed. I always try to have a session in mind that I can change depending on what the characters decide to do. A dungeon underneath a temple can quickly become an abandoned castle. Yeah, for sure. That's the other thing, too. If I I prep all my random encounters. I make rolls. So say my players are in a city, and they might stay in the city. They might leave the city, right? I will plan my random encounters. I'll roll on an encounter table. And from that, I'll come up with, these are the monsters. Boom, 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 boom. And, I know now if they're going to encounter it or not because I already rolled for it. So in the game, I might reskin that encounter to bandits if they never leave the city. If they leave the city and they camp okay, now they're wolves. Same stat block. I already rolled the encounter. This is what's going to happen. They still might find certain information because of it, right? So maybe the random encounter isn't when they're sleeping. Maybe it's when they're traveling, and it's because a person got hurt, right? So the magic item that they got was on the person who got hurt, or the note that they got was on the person who got killed by the wolves or the bandits or whatever, right? So you can easily reskin the same thing and put it where you need it. Doesn't matter. And that's a big thing too. That's part of improvisation. People are like, "Oh, how'd you prepare that encounter? Like, you didn't know that we were going to do this." And it's like, you're right. I didn't know that. But my snakes didn't make sense in your tavern or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that's important when running a game, is to be loose with your prep a little bit. Too many people are like, well, crap, you were going to fight these things. You're fighting these things, and maybe you have to do that. Maybe that's important to the story. And sometimes you want your story to supersede things. There's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of ways. And I don't think any one way is the right way. I don't claim that my way to run games is the best way or the only way. So, all right. So, going to my spreadsheet, I have a couple simple questions here. Well, one of them at least is really simple. The other one's very difficult. So, Lasagna Druid from my Discord says, "What is your personal favorite system/game?" So this one's a tough one because it's actually easy, but it's tough. So my favorite game of all time was Heroes Unlimited. But it's mostly because of nostalgia. My favorite game right this moment, it's 5e. It's 5e D&D. No way around it. This is my favorite game right now. It's the easiest game to run. It's fun. It's easy to get people to play it. It's, the rules are adaptable. It's easy for me to do the things I was just talking about, like reskin things. It's, to me right now, it's the best game for me. That doesn't mean it's the best game for you guys, but hands down, it is the best game for me. So, I think you have to figure out what works for you. I could run a Palladium game. The thing is I don't run raw. I run very loose with the rules for Palladium. For me, I try to do the rule of cool. I do that in D&D as well. I'll ignore certain rules occasionally. But like when it comes to Palladium, the most fun I've ever had playing it or running it is when you have players that don't care about the rules, that are like, yeah, whatever, I want to do this. All right, do this. Roll this, and there you go. But you're not like going, oh well, the book says that I can't do this kind of attack because I'm not trained in that hand-to-hand style, and whatever. In fact, there's far too many options as it pertains to that in Palladium anyways. There's like 30 different types of kick attacks you can get. And the only difference, there's a couple differences, but there's most of the times there's nothing differentiating two of them other than the name of the kick attack. But sometimes it's damage, sometimes a kick attack takes more than one action, whatever. So I'm not big into that. So I throw that stuff out the window usually when I run and play Palladium books. So if you ever want to play Palladium books, but you want to play it like strictly how the game is written, I'm not the right person to play with. If you want me as a player, I'll play within the rules of as written. But I'll need some guidance from you probably, because I usually just throw the rules out anyway. So, but yeah, D&D, hands down, favorite system right now. I think for you, though, if you aren't sure and you haven't played a lot of systems, you need to figure out what kind of player you are. Some people really like 3.5 D&D, for example. They like more rules for all the different situations because they want to have a rule for everything, and they want it to feel different than something else. You know what I mean? I don't feel the need for that personally. I think the narrative can do that for me in a lot of cases. All right, so the other question. So this one was the hard one. This one's from Omnisci. Again, he's got a YouTube channel. In fact, both these guys have YouTube channels. Lasagna Druid does, and Omnisci does too. Omnisci says, what are the crossover skills RPGs can help bring to salesmanship? So, I've talked about the benefits of role-playing games in the past. I don't feel like RPGs have helped me per se in my career. What I mean by that is I don't think that they have helped my skill set necessarily to be good at anything necessarily. Now, that doesn't mean they can't help you, and I think they can. In fact, I think role-playing is a good way to be better at sales in the first place. If you use scripts, role-playing your scripts with somebody else who's giving you objections and you're handling objection handlers and stuff like that, that's all good. Like real estate, we were told to do that all the time. Every real estate class I took, we did that. You were encouraged to have script partners. So in that regard, it can be helpful. If you are somebody who is social but shy, role-playing games can kind of help you with that as well. Might help you get over being shy, more comfortable around strangers or just groups of people. So that's kind of nice. If you are somebody who can trick yourself. So for example, I'm totally fine doing cold calling. I have not always been that way. But not because cold calling is hard or whatever, but because obviously everyone's had someone call them. You've hung up on them. You've said, hey, leave me alone. Like, you know what I mean? You say some mean things, right? And sometimes, especially if you're not used to cold calling, that can hit you personally. You're like, I'm just trying to do my job, or, look, I'm just trying to pay my bills this month or whatever. And then somebody on the other side can be kind of nasty with you, because you're calling their number. And the only reason you even have their number is they signed up for this thing on, like, for example, they're an internet lead. They inquired about a car that you're selling or a house that you're selling. Now they're mad that you're calling them a week later, asking if they're still interested. Like, So sometimes what role-playing, I think, can help you do is not take it personally. You can think of your job as a different character per se. Not that I do that. I don't. But there have been times where I've been like, look, I'm going to call 30 people today. And whatever, we'll just see how it goes. Boom, call them all. Not even thinking about the results. Not thinking about, no matter what, I'm going to sell them something today. Like, that's not the goal. Sometimes you're just like, I'm going to see if I can keep them on the phone for a minute, right? Like when people start nasty, like you turn it into, not a game, but you turn it into like I wonder if I can get them to open up a little, right? You make it a goal to improve not only your speaking, but things like that. And so I think in some ways, role-playing can help that because, when you're dealing with NPCs and the DM's like, oh, this person's going to be real secretive, but if the players role-play well enough, maybe I'll give them stuff. So in some ways, you can do some of that, but ultimately, you're not going to be somebody who's going to go from no interest and no skill set in sales to role-playing games giving you this skill set that now you can apply there. It won't work like that. All right, Chris, and I spent way too much time on that question. Chris Drew says, would you be in favor of a 5.5e where they incorporate all the classes, races, options from the more recent books? So, in other words, like including Xanathar's Guide and Volo's and all of that stuff into one book? Are you talking about changing the rules, though? Because why would it need to be 5.5e? I don't think they would need to up the edition to 5.5e. No, I wouldn't do that. I am totally in favor of them coming up with a book that has all of the player options from Xanathar's put into. Maybe you take the rules out of the original player's handbook and you just call this a legit a player's guide, and it's literally every single character or player option from all the books. So Xanathar's is put in there, the player's handbook stuff's in there, and it's organized by race, class, feats, equipment, whatever, all in one book. I'm cool with that. And you do the same thing with the monster manual, and you just call it a monster guide. Put every single monster from all the books into there. And then the Dungeon Master's Guide could be all the magic items, all of the tables, and all of the rules. I think that'd be fine. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend they do that. But I would be fine with them combining those things into less books. I think, so if we're going to talk about a new version of the game, I like where they went with 5th. I like that it's simple. I think they've learned a lot about what works with this edition. I'm going to turn this light on real quick. Let me turn this on. It's kind of dark. There. Hopefully that's better. I just felt like it was getting kind of dark in this house. All right. Yeah, that is better. All right. So, yeah, I don't know, though, if I would necessarily create a new edition necessarily. But if I had to create a new edition, I would probably do... I think I would do the Dungeon Master Guide. When it first came out and I read it, I did a chapter-by-chapter review. Was not really that happy about how the book came out, to be honest, at the time. Now, as time has passed, there's been things that I've been more excited about that when I first read through it, didn't think it was necessary. But there's still a lot in here that I don't like. I also don't like that the monster manual doesn't really tell you how to create encounters. And I know that the Xanathar's Guide model is the best working model for how to create encounters. So I wish that was in the monster manual and the Dungeon Master Guide. I wish there was more about traps. There's a lot in the Dungeon Master Guide about your settings and things like that. And I don't know if that's necessary. You know, I think still looking back, while the Dungeon Master Guide's more useful than I originally gave it credit for, I think there's more they could have done. I mean, it's a thin book, you know, in my opinion, for $50. I guess it's 320 pages, so it's not that thin. But I just feel like they could have done more. They could have done a lot more. I don't know, maybe add 30 more pages and, you know, give us more. I don't know. The monster manual, too. So, again, the monster manual, it's got some stuff that's fine. This one's a little bit bigger book, 352 pages. What's in the player's handbook? I don't even know. The player's handbook is about 316 pages. So I think they should all try to strive to be 350. I think that's a good page count. The other thing about combining the books, they've had a lot of binding issues, and I don't know if it's because of the weight of the paper, if it's the glue that the binding companies have used, because I think they've switched their publishers too. I just think I love bigger books. The Dragon Age book by Green Ronin is like that thick. It's awesome. However, it's sitting on my bookshelf and the pages are starting to pull away from the binding because they're so heavy. Same things happened with my Pathfinder books, like the core book, I think. So the thicker the book, the worse it is for the binding as well. So, I mean, maybe 280 pages really is where, like, maybe they shouldn't exceed 300 pages. So I don't know. I think that it's fine, though, how they did it. I like their slower release schedule. I like that they didn't overwhelm us with options right away. The Player's Handbook has plenty in it. I still have groups that stick just to the Player's Handbook. You know, so it can't be too bad. And the feats, I wish they wouldn't have made that an optional rule, because I don't know a lot of groups that don't use them anyway. Like the human feat variant rule. I don't know a lot of people who don't use that. There's a couple I've met, but not a lot. I just feel like the feats add a ton, and that's one of the ways you can make your character different. I wish they had more feats. I wish you had things that made your characters feel more unique. So some valuable options that could make you feel unique, like a dagger master that lets you do extra attacks with daggers. You know, like, oh, I'm dual wielding daggers. I take this dagger feat. Right now, I only have one attack per round and a bonus action, but maybe it allows me, as long as I'm using daggers, to do 2 attacks and 2 bonus attacks with daggers. You know, that would be kind of cool. And it's not game breaking. I mean, you're literally talking about 4d4 damage. That's it. Now, that might be a big deal in a rogue's hands, you know, because you get sneak attack damage and stuff. But still, I mean, you're just talking about daggers. And maybe you put in there, only get sneak attack on the first attack, first hit or something, you know? Wally says, I really do not want to see a 6E. I would be okay with a 5.5E that addressed a few of the possible unearthed arcana changes, such as giving sorcerers domain type spells that you get at certain levels. I think the Clockwork Sorcerer in Unearthed Arcana has a list like this. Yeah, I think so. I think that would be definitely interesting. But I don't think you even need to change to a 5.5E. I think you can just start incorporating that as an optional rule in another DM's guide. You know, I don't know if they have enough to do another DM's guide, but maybe they do a Player's Handbook 2 that includes every single race and class that was not in this book. If there was a Player's Handbook 2 and it had every single race and class from every other book into that book, and in it you also added new feats, racial feats, because again, I love the racial feats thing. I wish every race could choose a feat at first level. I really do. Or at least a racial feat at first level. But I'm not worried about the game getting too powerful for the players. I have no problem dropping players. That's the other thing. But I also ignore CR. So maybe that's not relevant. I don't know. Chris says, some feats need to be improved. Future video? I agree. Yeah, I could definitely do another video on that. Right now, my focus is doing racial videos this week. I've been meaning to do it. I have not filmed them yet. It's been pretty tiring being around 3 kids the whole time and cooped up with the wife and just rah. So that's why we haven't been mini painting at night. It's been like, hey, I'm gonna try to unwind before going to bed kind of thing. Because our house is just going like all day until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So that's roughly when the kids go to bed. So it's, yeah. Right now, Gabe's asleep. He's my 1-year-old. I don't know what my daughter's doing. I think she might still be outside. Is Lily still outside? Is Lily outside or is she upstairs? Oh, okay. So my daughter's upstairs. Oh, okay. And then Caleb is playing some video games right now. So anyways, but yes, I think improving feats is a good video. I know others have done that. I've allowed homebrew feats in my games. I can pull those up, actually. I have them over on my World Anvil site, which I am affiliated with. So if you are interested in getting in on our world building stuff on Discord, you can. Hang on. Hey, buddy, I'm doing something. Yep, there's a lot of money right there. So if you are interested in joining my Discord, you can talk about world building. Some of us are on World Anvil. We're writing out our homebrew worlds on there. It's free if you go join and start doing that. However, if later on you decide to do the paid version, which gives you a bunch of extra features, gives you extra bandwidth, more pictures you can use, site mapping, all sorts of cool stuff. If you click on my link to do so, you can help me get a little bit of a commission. So if not, no big deal. But yeah, so on World Anvil, I created a page with my homebrew rules, and the feats that I'm allowing that aren't currently in the book. So let me, oops. Yes, remember me and log in. Let's do this. Cancel. I'm going to pull them up. There's like 3 different healing feats that I'm allowing. Ooh, they're 20% off right now. It looks like for a 12-month membership, but that's the Critical Role sale. I don't think I have that, so I can't help you there. All right, character creation house rules. So I created an article for that, which I have character creation. Then I have custom feats allowed. So one of them is acrobat, another one's blacksmith, another one is blind fighting. You know, something that some of you old school gamers might remember from the older editions. Die Hard, which allows you to expend a hit die, I believe, in combat as like a bonus action, rather than having to wait for a short rest. You also get advantage on your death saves. Font of Life, Healing Adept, High Functioning Drinker. It's actually High Functioning Alcoholic, but I renamed it on my page. Basically, as a bonus action, you can drink a healing potion. Paramedic and Ventriloquist. So those are the custom feats I allow right now. And then I've got some house rules about like allowing story points and stuff. So yeah. As for improving feats though, so there's some feats that are just not optimal, right? There's just some that's like, why would I take this? For instance, the Inspiring Leader, if you have 10 minutes to talk, that's great. I don't know a lot of people who take that because you don't usually have 10 minutes to talk, right? I think the Bard gets an ability that allows him to do something similar in 1 minute, right? So there's just some things in there that I would probably never use. But I think you need more feats. And not just because, you know, you need a ton of feats, but I think having, again, my big gripe with 5e has been that no 2 fighters really feel different, right? It kind of comes down to what you take at that 3rd level, but they're the same. You know, most fighters, you know, one with a longsword doesn't feel that much different from one with a greatsword. You know, it's just a different weapon type, weapon damage, right? I feel like allowing the one that's with the greatsword an ability to, I don't know, break a weapon rather than maybe the one with the longsword can disarm a guy. Maybe someone with a short sword gets an extra attack. Maybe the person with the daggers, again, gets multiple attacks, you know? I think making the weapon choice of the fighter matter, making the type of armor actually matter other than just the armor class, that stuff I think is a huge deal. That's what I would like to see personally. But I don't know. What do I know? That's why yesterday when I was talking about system stuff, I was talking about how I was hoping to make my own homebrew system work out like that. Nope, no new questions there. Yeah, people getting nasty on my Facebook. It's not helping me. Not helping me with my questions. All right. So, any other questions? Let's keep these questions rolling. You just post a question over there, and I will answer it. Or a topic that you want me to talk about. Obviously, I can talk for a while about anything you're interested in talking about. I'd like to see a 5e version of like a superheroes game. I think that would be cool if somebody took the rules from D&D 5e and made a good superhero game. I would love to see Wizards of the Coast do it. And just have like any type of character build from comic books or movies or whatever that you can think of possible. You know, maybe they call it D20 Superverse or something. I don't know. Or 5e the Supers. Superheroes and villains. Or what is it? It's Dungeons and Dragons, so you call it Headquarters and Villains. I don't know. That might be interesting. I would buy it. I like superhero games. And if it's something that I could get a lot of people to play easily, we'd be set. We would be set. The problem is the balance, and I understand how that could be a problem. But you could do things like reskin spells as superpowers and abilities as superpowers. Like Wolverine's healing would basically be the fighter's, what is it? Not action surge, but second wind. And then, maybe your speed guys would have that action surge, right? The Hulk would have the rage ability. Captain America could throw his shield, but it would be more like a magic item thing. You could do a lot of stuff. Anybody at Wizards that could make that happen? The superhero thing? I don't know. I don't know anybody at Wizards that closely. I have my old DM from Provokers, Matt Click, Fistful of Dice. He does some freelance editing for Wizards of the Coast. Let's see. I've had brief online conversations with Dan Dillon, who I think is a full-time employee there now. But he probably doesn't even remember it because it's been in like D&D groups more so than like one-on-one. I think we had a messenger conversation once too. I think that was before he worked there. But no, I don't know anybody that closely that can actually make something happen. I think the best if somebody wanted to make something like that happen, they would have to. Matt's just a freelancer who does freelance editing for them. He doesn't actually work for he's not a Wizards of the Coast employee, as far as I know. He has his like Absolute Tabletop company that he and Barker and the Kearney brothers they own. But no, I don't think he's considered an employee of Wizards of the Coast. He's a contracted employee, which is basically a freelancer. I think one of the first books he worked on was Dungeon of the Mad Mage. One of those two that came out at that time. But yeah. Obviously, he has personal relationships with people over there. So, he's doing things. I'm proud of him. I think that's really awesome. I would be ecstatic if I was in his situation. I don't write like he does, though. Maybe that's the thing. I need to sit down and write all the time and get good at programs like InDesign and things like that, like him. He's a very smart guy. He's a great DM, very smart, very on top of things. He deserves all that success. I have not earned anything like that. I don't even know if I could earn that with all the hard work in the world, to be honest. I'd love to. That would be a dream come true. But right now, that's all it would be is a dream because I haven't even woken up yet and started acting. So, I am far behind someone like him, though, on skill. Would definitely need to practice for a while and hone that in and learn and all that good stuff. I have friends who have done freelance work for Palladium Books. Could probably get them to do some stuff, but again, that's for Palladium system, and that's I wish that system would get a complete overhaul. That's not happening anytime soon, though. No, and I mean with the open gaming license, someone could make a superhero game that could be pretty good. Wally says, Matt was one of the first YouTubers I started watching when I got back into playing D&D 4 years ago. Yeah, actually, so, he also says, also, InDesign is hard, LOL. Yeah, no, Matt just learned InDesign, I think, recently. He was talking about it on Twitter. So, go back to 2012 real quick. If you've heard this story, I'm sorry. The reason I even got into YouTube, and maybe I should even rewind before all that. So I got into RPGs in 97. It was Heroes Unlimited. I wanted to play. Our DM, my friend Doug, he was an older guy. He was like 26 at the time, I think. I was like 12. I got my friend to play. And we ended up, I wanted to play Heroes. They apparently wanted to play Rifts. We, in the middle of our first session, got pulled into Rifts. Boom. Did like 1 or 2 sessions later, never played again. Played online a little bit in high school, could not get a campaign going. Obviously, that was in the AOL, or you had the phone jack dial-up internet. Couldn't get anything sticking with that. Couldn't find friends to play in high school. Tried to join a D&D group. Was told the group was full. They had like 10 people. They played on an air hockey table, so I didn't get to play with them, unfortunately. And then so I played a little bit online mid-2000s using the Palladium Books chat room. Did a play-by-post game. 2010, met my wife. When we moved in together, we had not had a discussion about RPGs. And I had asked her if I could put some of my books on her bookshelf. She said, yeah. So I took my box over to her bookshelf, and I took my Heroes Unlimited books out. I only had a few at the time. And I went to put them on the shelf, and I saw her D&D books. And I was like, you play D&D? And she's like, yeah, they're my brother's books. I was like, oh, so you don't play? She's like, I mean, I play. I used to play. That's why I got them. And I was like, oh, well, I play, role-playing games too. We should get people to play. Do you know anybody who plays? And so she was like, no. And so then we reached out to my sister and we started playing with them. So in 2010, we tried to play. She ran some second edition D&D. I ran some Heroes Unlimited. And then my wife got pregnant. My sister got pregnant. And so that game ended. 2012, my gallbladder, I had a real big pain for like a day. And I didn't know it was my gallbladder. I said I need to go to the hospital. She didn't think I did. Anyways, I went to the hospital. They had to open me up completely because it was so big. It was like the size of an eggplant. And I had gangrene, apparently, and stones, ton of stones in there. So I was home for 6 weeks. In that time, in 2012, this was probably around, actually, it was probably 2011. May have been 2011 if this was happening. It was 2011. I started watching Dawn Forged Cast, Wood, WWAD, your main man. Started watching Matt Click, Tim, Samwise 7 RPG Harper. Started watching, there was a couple others. Gentleman Gamer. So as I'm watching these channels, I'm getting this itch to play role-playing games, right? Because I hadn't really been able to dive into it like I had wanted to for so long. And hearing these tips on what makes a good game, because I hadn't played enough to even know what made a good game. And so I listened. I absorbed this stuff for probably 7-8 months. And, it all made sense. And to me, it all clicked. And I was like, I got to play. But still couldn't get it going. So I started talking about it online in the RPG Brigade. Because at the time, that was the place to be. There was like 500 members. That was where you went to talk about RPGs. That's where you went to talk to these YouTubers. You had Dungeon Master Johnny there, I think, for a minute before he got kicked out or left. You had the big drama, all that good stuff around that time. Anyways, so 2012, March, is when I created my channel, and I just decided I'm just going to do a YouTube channel. This was not my first YouTube channel. I had a channel back in 2008 about music. I used to have a podcast in 2008. But 2012, I was like, all right, this is the channel. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing video responses because you could pin video responses attached to other videos. And, it was more about community rather than let's make a big YouTube channel and let's, become professional game designers. And it wasn't anything like that. It was just, hey, let's talk to some other RPGers. It was great. That was why I started. And I started because I wanted to learn. I wanted to piggyback off of ideas, things like that. And so I had some good conversations. I did some videos. Some of my early videos are my worst videos, but they're genuine. It's me talking about what I thought I was into at the time. I thought I was really into combat and didn't really care too much about social interactions and stuff like that. And that was way wrong. At the time, it was true. It's not true now. I loved my Provokers campaign because of a lot of the RP. Not as much because of the combat, but because of the cool stories that we told together. That was good stuff. So I learned a lot doing these videos and stuff over time. But yeah, Matt Click I had a lot of respect for him. A lot of respect for him. In fact, I didn't even realize he knew who I was until he invited me into the Provokers. Because I don't think he had ever done a response to anything I said. I don't think he'd ever talked about anything I did. It wasn't until 2014 when I started the one-shot group that I feel like certain people that I didn't even realize knew who I was started talking to me. You know? But yeah, I got invited into the Provokers. That was an awesome campaign. We used to talk every day through Facebook Messenger all day long. And that was it was Tim, Barker, Matt, Nate. Me and Nate would hang out, obviously. In fact, it was funny. Nate had just started doing videos, was interested in getting into Pathfinder because of Dawn Forged Cast. This was before 5e came out, like right before it came out. And I remember catching his video, one of his first videos, because he was in a Grand Rapids video game group. I told him, you should join the Brigade. And so he did. And then I remember driving down 28th Street, which is a 5-lane street. You know, you have a turn lane in the middle. And we were heading west on 28th Street. And he was to my left. And I was like, dude. I honked the horn. He was in a minivan. I honked my horn. I'm like, dude. And he looked at me and he's like, Juice. and we... What, bud? Yeah, he called me Juice. I was like, dude. I was like, we need to hang out. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened. But I think we pulled over for a second into Taco Bell, or I did. And because I pulled into Taco Bell. I want to say he did too for a second. And we were like, yeah, we should hang out sometime. And anyways, we ended up gaming together in person, and then we were invited into the Provokers together. And his channel took off because he's an awesome guy. He does some great videos. He's also a teacher, which I think helps with his presentation a lot. But yeah, that was a good memory. Hey, Duane, welcome, buddy. Duane. So Chris says, my first was Dawn Forge and WSD 20 before the Provokers caught my eye. Yeah, Dawn Forge cast at the time, he was doing a lot of stuff. 2014, 2013, he had some good videos. I loved his Pathfinder videos. They were some of the best ones, I thought. I didn't like the other stuff he was doing, like reading books or whatever. Didn't really like his video game stuff. And I didn't like his 5e stuff, really, to be honest. Most of his 5e stuff didn't work for me, but I never had a problem with him. I've played in some games with him. I've run some games for him before. But yeah. Wally DM says, yep, watched a ton of them too. What, bud? I can read their names. Which one? Oh, no, that wasn't in the chat. That was me telling a story from a long time ago. So yeah, Duane says, good morning from the west coast of Canada. Good morning, Duane. It is afternoon here. Duane says, what are a few of your favorite moments in games as player, DM, or viewing? So viewing, there's not a lot of games I can just sit there and watch. My favorite games to watch are actually the Acquisitions Incorporated games. I can watch those, the ones I do in front of a live audience. I find those very entertaining. I like they have minis. I like that there's comedy put into it. I've tried to watch some of the early episodes of Critical Role. I know I need to skip that first season. That's what I've been told. I would like to watch those. It just comes down to time. I wish I had more time to watch. But I love the inside jokes from Acquisitions Incorporated. You know, the Green Flame thing. Anything with Jim Dark Magic, Binwin. I liked when Will Wheaton was on there. I know there's some issues and reasons he won't be on there again. I get that. Just in general, every single Acquisitions Incorporated in front of an audience, I love. Favorite moments as a player. This one is easy. It goes definitely to Provokers for me. The fight between the dwarves, me and Tim, his character Durgan, Durgan Blood Mountain, I think is his name. We were fighting in Stone Rift. We had gone to the quarry, I think. We were fighting. We rolled down the stairs. It was a fist fight. This was all before the elevator scene where we were in a free fall in the elevator. Again, that was an epic scene. Like that whole session, easily as a player, my favorite session of all time. And Provokers probably has a few of my favorite sessions of all time as a player, to be honest. DMing. So I have such a bad memory. For me, the hardest thing about a lot of these types of questions is I don't remember the details. I remember the feelings sometimes. Like I remember, so when we just played the BlackRock game, I really enjoyed that as a DM. I thought that was a lot of fun for different reasons than I've enjoyed running other games. It's tough. I enjoyed running my first session that Nate was in, where I had crafted a mine out of cardboard, and his reaction to what I had made. At the time, I was like, yeah, this is cool. If I look back at the piece I made, it looked like shit. And I think Nate would probably agree, and everyone who was there would agree. But at the time, like that reaction made it even better. And that was a fun session. I liked how I set that up. It was just fun. As a DM, I have some good ones from that. That was my campaign with my wife and Nate. He was playing Malcolm, I think. I think that was his character's name. He was a cleric. My wife was playing a rogue. She started off as a gnome sorcerer, and then when we switched from Pathfinder 5e, Nate just ported his character over, basically, and Paula changed to a rogue, an elf rogue assassin. We had my friend Brett played a session or two as a ranger. My friend Dustin played and then brought his girlfriend at the time in. She was a druid. He was a fighter, great sword fighter who couldn't talk. Then we had this guy named Steve who joined us and played a ranger, because Brett only played a couple sessions. But then this guy named Steve, who was older, used to older editions, joined us. He wasn't into the narrative stuff as much. For example, I would do like flashbacks or cutscenes. So I wanted the players to know the evil that was going on in the world. I didn't want their characters to know, but I wanted the players to know. So like there was a session I started where these cultists were resurrecting a god by basically killing themselves, like slitting their wrists and stuff, and the blood was forming up on this altar around these petrified body parts of this god and forming him, bringing him back from his thousands of years of slumber. And he was actually he was a dual-classed character, or multi-class character. I had him as war cleric, I think, and sorcerer, I think, or warlock. I don't know. I did 2 spellcaster types, and he was like 20 levels of each or 10 levels of each. I can't remember. But anyway, so Steven didn't like that. That was one of our last sessions before we moved anyway. But yeah. But as a DM, I have a lot. I think there were some good ones from that, because that was my first really fun campaign to run myself. Every campaign I tried to run before that just didn't feel like it was done very well. The other campaign I was running at the time with the family, I didn't feel like it was a lot of fun, because there was a lot of fighting about how to handle things between the players, not necessarily in character. So that one was tough. And I at the time, I think I was so inexperienced running games that I didn't really know how to handle it half the time. Running games through the one-shot group, I learned a lot. Playing in games, I learned a lot. I feel like I got a lot of good experience in a short amount of time. That was huge for me. Chris says, I can't watch Critical Role either. There's one called Dungeon Run that has some fun elements. I don't think I've heard of Dungeon Run. I may have. I might follow them on like Twitter or something. I follow a ton of podcasts because I'm hoping they'll post like cool RPG stuff, but I don't really pay attention to most live plays, unfortunately. But you should watch mine if you haven't. We've got Descent into Avernus with Nate from WSD20. We've got Luke from the DM Lair, Jake from Any Terrain Domain, and my wife Paula, all in that game. I run a campaign called BlackRock Adventurers that is mostly just close friends. It's how we play. And then I've got the Forgotten Throne game that we are about 15 sessions in on that we run online. That one's been a lot of fun. I like, so the Descent game obviously is a module. The other two are my homebrew world, and I use those as excuses to flesh out those parts of my world. I really love how it motivates me and inspires me. It's like it's like playing in the game forces me to world build, which is fun, and world building helps me run the game, which is fun. Like, so they both help each other. It's this really awesome thing, and I got 2 games forcing me to do that, so I like that. In fact, I think next week we're supposed to return with Forgotten Throne Season 2. So, yeah, go check those out. I got playlists for them. Duane says, it took me a bit to get into Critical Role. I felt that Mercer was stealing creativity from the characters by describing their epic moments. Oh, okay. I haven't felt that way yet when I have listened to it. Yeah, okay. Interesting. I'll have to pay a little bit closer attention. It's hard, though, for me, like I said. After a while, I realized he was setting examples for them, and they started narrating their epic moments more. Yes, actually, okay, that is a great tip. That is one of the first tips I picked up on watching YouTube channels, is I had never experienced groups that did a good job narrating. In fact, most groups I played in, it was literally, I run up, I hit it with my sword, roll the dice, I hit. Great. How much damage? 7. That's it. That was combat. It wasn't a lot of role-playing in it, which always bothered me. There'd be some people who said, I want to run up and slash it with my sword, and, oh, I got a second attack, so now I want to try to pierce, like they're doing a little more descriptive. I liked that far more, but I didn't realize, and in fact, a lot of the times the DM just narrated it for them in most games I played. But that right there is something I learned. And as a DM, I encourage players to narrate themselves. If I notice they aren't, I then start doing it a little bit, and then I back off. Sometimes I'll ask them, like, oh, what does that spell look like? What does that attack look like? What are you doing on your watch? What are you doing while you wait? I try to ask probing questions now. But that is huge. Sometimes you have to set the example for them and let them know they can do that themselves. Wally DM says, Force Grey was my favorite Matt Mercer show. Can't get into Critical Role. Al is always my favorite. Or is it Chris Perkins is my favorite? Listen to all of his DCA and looking forward to D&D Presents. I love Chris Perkins. I would love... I feel like that for me would be the best. If Chris Perkins could run a campaign for me, I would be ecstatic. I would love it. Chris Drew says, I wish Wizards would do more celebrity games. Yeah, that would be cool. That'd be really cool. Unfortunately, they're up in Seattle. Well, kind of. They're in Washington. And most celebrities are down in California, which is a long ways away. But I would love to see that more as well. Even if it was just online. It'd be cool to see them doing... Oh, okay, Acquisitions Incorporated is always my favorite. Yeah, Acquisitions Incorporated is mine, too, so I get it. I like that it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it still tells really good stories, Not that I want a game that is that goofy, but at the same time, I like the interaction between players. I do. And if I knew up front that the game was going to be that way, that'd be fine with me. So I'd be cool with it. I've got the Acquisitions Inc. book. I haven't finished reading it. Yeah, Perkins is my favorite, hands down. I love that a player can just ask him, like, oh, is there a chandelier here? And he'll be like, yes. Even if it doesn't make sense sometimes. I feel like he's really there to make it fun for the players. From what I've heard, it sounds like, not that Matt Mercer isn't, but he's also more about his story than the fun for the players. Not that they have to be exclusive, but it just, didn't Perkins just put his streamed campaign on hold? To be honest, I don't know. I really don't know. I love Chris Perkins. Love him. That guy, man. He's a treasure. He really is. That would be my bucket list thing. Like, if I could play a game with Chris Perkins as my DM, that'd be it for me. Joe Manganiello seems pretty cool too. I would love to play in a game with like Joe Manganiello. Give me Brandon Cutler from AEW, the wrestler. Give me Big Show, the wrestler, and then me and Chris Perkins as the DM. That would be cool. I would love it. In fact, I'm going to tweet that right now, just because. Just because I feel like it. And nobody will say anything, but I'm just going to get this going again. Dice Camera Action, I think that's the name. Yeah, I've heard of that one too. See, again, though, I don't watch live plays, unfortunately. Okay, Twitter. Right now, this is exactly what I'm posting. Okay, Twitter. Let's talk about our dream D&D groups again. Let's do some dreaming. That's what I'm saying. Mine would be at Chris Perkins as DM. Perfect. At Joe Manganiello. I'm probably saying his name wrong. Let's go at Brandon Cutler. I said Big Show before. Let's go with somebody else. Let's bring Matt Mercer in as a player. Let's bring him in as a player. I haven't seen him as a player. Let's bring Matt Clique in as a player as well. That'd be a fun group to play with. And then honorable mentions at Luke from the DM Lair. Or no, let's put Ember Moon in there. Because I think she'd be fun. At Big Show. So we'll say Big Show. And The Rock. The Rock would be a fun one, I think, too. Cool. I don't know what's going to come of that, but why not? Let's have some fun, right? Let's get it. All right. And I would stream the shit out of that campaign. What does heck mean? Oh, no. It's just a filler word. What does heck mean, Paula? Yeah, it's a filler word. Right? I don't know. What does heck mean? I'll pull it up. Most people mean it in a bad way. Heck, it's an exclamation expressing surprise, frustration, or dismay. Used for emphasis in questions and exclamations. So that's what it means. It's an exclamation. What about you guys? What are your dream D&D groups right now that you can think of? You have any good ones? Love to see you mention it. I've got a lot of ideas, but so anyways, looks like Gary Con's going on this. Is it right now or is it this weekend? I feel like that's a pretty big deal right now. I don't know. Is that this weekend? I think Luke Gygax was talking about it. Let me look. Let me see if I can find this. Let's type in Gary Con. Let's see what comes up. Latest. This weekend for GaryCon, Virtual Con, I'll be speaking at the World Building and Homebrew panel. That's the Bearded Nerd. I don't know who the Bearded... I'm not following Bearded Nerd, but I am now. All right, cool. So Bearded Nerd, you just got followed. Playing Dragon Age over Google Hangouts with strangers. GaryCon time. I'm sharing that because I love Dragon Age, and that person's getting followed. cool thing about Twitter. You just search for keywords, and there you go. Can anyone attend virtual GaryCon? I can't wait to play this game. Realmsmith showing pictures of his miniatures and his sweet boat. Show off. I love Realmsmith. He's solid. His channel is really good. I've tuned into some of his mini painting, and it's great. So yes, GaryCon is Friday and Saturday at 12 p.m. Central. If you guys haven't yet, go on over to, there's 2 GaryCon channels. There's also another one that they've been promoting. It's like Wizards of the Couch, I think is the name of them. And yeah, so go on over to Twitch if you want to watch those this weekend. GaryCon looks like it's going to be pretty exciting. So, oh man, I feel like opening this bad boy up. Let's look at a monster I haven't used before. Let's pick one out. So first of all, I'm pretty fortunate. My monster manual is signed by Ed Greenwood. It says, Juce. This is not a correct depiction of me, Ed Greenwood. And it's a red dragon, I think. Copper dragon? Bronze dragon? I don't know. But it's a dragon. So my binding is starting to mess up in the introduction, you can see here. This book will probably be split out very soon, unfortunately. It's almost like somebody left the book open right here. Maybe set some paper on it and started writing stuff. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there. All right. Beginning talks about like monster abilities. It's been a long time since I've really looked at this book, other than trying to pull out like different monsters. The angels and stuff in the front are kind of cool. I've never used them. Ooh, Rug of Smothering would be a fun one. What?
I've been up against one of those before.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think I can mess you guys up with that. The answer is yes.
I haven't done one in 5th edition.
What's that?
I haven't done one in 5th edition, so I don't know what the stats are in 5th edition.
Oh, it won't matter. Doesn't matter what they are. I don't use it by the stats. I look at it for baseline. Hey, you don't use the hit points, the suggested hit points. You roll the dice. Boom.
Wow, it's more interesting.
Right. So switching up the stats is more interesting.
Mostly I do that because I just like it when people are like, we've done 40 hit points. That killed the last one.
I know. I know. That's also why I don't use the stats from the monster manual, because people look stuff up on their phone or whatever and say the same thing. Well, I don't understand. In the monster manual, they only have an AC of 13. How come my 14's not hitting it? I don't know. Maybe the goblin's wearing some armor. Maybe he's, got the defense feat. Basilisk, I haven't used one of those. A Behir, I haven't used one of those.
Are you going page by page?
I'm trying to figure, no. Yes, I am right now, but
What are you trying to decide?
just a cool monster to use in one of my next games that I haven't used. What? Yeah, I said it a minute ago. I'm trying to find something I haven't used before. That's all. I don't even know.
Environment.
I don't know yet. I'll make an environment that fits it. I don't know. It'll depend on the game. If it's my Forgotten Throne game, they are possibly going into a dungeon soon. If it's, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. 6th, I think. If it's the BlackRock game, there's a lot of options there. Could be outside, could be a cave, could be a city. I've used Minotaurs. So, I don't know. No, I got it. I've used Chimera. I have not used the Chul. I should go through the old monster manual, the old 2nd edition one, because there's more monsters in that. than this. Could probably find some good ones. But anyways, I didn't realize my book was falling apart. That's making me sad. Yeah, what other questions you guys got? I'm open to whatever. I also think it'd be cool to do Provoker Season 1 reunion. I said that a while back to the guys. They got a couple likes, but nobody really said anything about it. I thought that would be a lot of fun, though. I don't know why that's not working right. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Oh, I missed... Oh, interesting. So for some reason, I've been missing a lot of your comments. All right, here we go. Dice Camera Action, I think that's the name. That's the link to Chris's game. 145 episodes. Chris Drew, Xavier Woods is good in the newest Acquisitions Incorporated games. I have not watched the newest ones yet. Xavier Woods is awesome, though. I'm a huge fan of Xavier Woods. Even on Up, Up, Down, Down, they played some games there with Tyler Breeze, Ember Moon, and that was fun to watch. Dream Big. DCA was postponed last year. His new stream will be called D&D Presents or Torch. Oh, okay. By postponed, I mean canceled. It was supposed to go to GaryCon and, of course, didn't make it. Supposed to be this weekend. They went all virtual. Yeah. Yep. I think GaryCon's going to be a hit, though. I think all conventions should be doing more virtually anyway. I think there should be virtual options alongside the actual in-person stuff, and I think they should have hosts. I said this on yesterday's stream. Duane says, honestly, I'd love a game with a blind DM. The description's more visceral. Yeah, probably. That would be interesting, right? I don't know anybody who's blind who runs or plays D&D, though. Gonzo the Great says, it's virtual only, no convention experience. Yep. Duane says, hi, Paula. Hi. Chris Drews met Nate at GaryCon a couple years ago. Yep, Nate's cool. Nate's a good guy. He plays in our Descent game. I've known him for 6 years now. Wally DM says, had some really good games scheduled in a seminar by Satine Phoenix, but hope to get to go next year. And hoping Gen Con does not get canceled. Even if I could, I don't know if at this point I would be planning on going to Gen Con, even if they were holding the convention. I just feel like it's too risky, even if this, boils over and the numbers dwindle. I don't know. I don't know. That's only like 3 months from now. Duane says, some early copies of the 5e core books had bad bindings. Wizards of the Coast was really good about replacing mine. Yeah, I think they've done a good job replacing them. I know a lot of people have tried to use that as excuses for dogging on Wizards of the Coast, but they've actually, if you told them, they've let you keep your books typically, and they just send you a new one, it sounded like. I often use the stats from Monster A, but the description of Monster B. Yeah, I switch things up. I've used Goblin stat blocks for kobolds before. I've used orc stat blocks for goblins. I mix things up. Tyler says, Mind Flayers, man. Lead up to Cthulhu crossover. So I've used Mind Flayers. I've used Intellect of Hours before. They're fun. I feel like I'm nerfing them, though, when I use them, honestly. Because I don't feel like there's really any way anyone should be able to stop a Mind Flayer. With the whole Elder Brain and being all dialed into all the other ones. It's like, oh, you killed one, but now all 500 of them know you're here. Like there's no way you'd survive. There's no way. But yes, that could work for the Cthulhu miniature. Gonzo the Great. Hey, Wally DM, you have a good channel, and I have used many of your puzzles and traps. Thanks. Look at that. I love it. You guys sharing the love with each other. Duane says, one of my characters was killed by 2 Chul about a year ago. Okay. Yeah, I haven't used those before. I don't have any good miniatures for them. But I guess now, since we're not using miniatures for online games, that would be a lot easier. Ropers. The Stalactite Baby Ropers. Smothering Rugs and Mimics. I've used Ropers. Have not used Smothering Rugs, and I've used plenty of Mimics. Are you viewing top chat rather than live chat? So I'm in my screen, my stream screen. It's a little different. I had it scrolled up so it wasn't taking on the new stuff, unfortunately, and I didn't notice the arrow. So no worries, I got it all squared away now. Paula's making a bunch of noise. Gonzo says, hoping that the Nerdarchy Con is a go. Me too. I'm planning on going, assuming things go back to normal well in advance, because I'm a car salesman. I'm not making any money right now. I'm home with zero pay. And I haven't been there long enough to collect unemployment. Plus, technically, I'm still employed. I'm not laid off. I'm none of that. So I don't know how that pertains to unemployment, but I only was there for 2 weeks beforehand. So, yeah. If Gen Con falls through, I may try to head to Nerdarchy Con. Sounds like it is shaping up to be a great con. Dude, there's supposed to be a ton of people. Ton of streamers. A ton of people you know from the gaming, for sure. It's going to be awesome. Gonzo says, if you go at Wally, run a couple tables. I'll join. I'd play a game with Wally. I probably won't run any games while I'm there, but I'm totally there to network, to talk to people, socialize, maybe play some games. Wally says, Juice, do you prefer in real life games or virtual, or like them both for different reasons? Both for different reasons. So, I am somebody who's hot or cold socially. I either am very social and want to be around a lot of people, or I want to be around nobody. Like it's very up and down. And usually if I'm in the more of a want to be around people in person, I don't want to do the online as much. And it's the opposite, if I'm wanting to not be in front of a bunch of people, I'm more about the online. Now, in person I like more because of miniatures. I do love miniatures. I feel like at times I can lean a little bit more on miniature play at the table, especially if I am not feeling much of the role play. I feel like I could still have a good session with my group that's more focused on combat sometimes, and I can steer things that way. In online, sometimes can be real draining mentally for me, especially like if you have a group that you have to like carry them through stuff, or if you have multiple games going on. Like for me, I was running a Wednesday game every week. I was trying to do a Friday game every week. I was trying to do in-person games. I was trying to do too much recently, and I was just always mentally taxed. Online games are great though. You get your pick of players, you get your choice of, play styles. You can be a little more selective, and I like that. Because a lot of times when I'm coming up with a campaign, there are types of players I want at my table, whereas in person you can't be as selective. So, you gotta, sometimes it's just about filling a hole, with in-person games. And I went years without being able to find in-person games before, pre-2014. Duane says, I'm an introvert because I gain energy by being alone. However, I'm quite sociable and love a game around a table, but it's exhausting. Yes. Games are draining. How long are your sessions? Hours and time in between sessions. So I don't like long sessions usually. In person, I can play for hours, though. It doesn't matter. I feel like I could sit there and play for 8 to 10 hours once I'm sitting down at the table to play. Online, I like to keep them around no more than 3 hours, but about 2 hours is my ideal time online. In person, my ideal time is about 4 hours. I haven't figured out my sweet spot between sessions because there's a lot of factors for me. Family time can sometimes be draining for me. I think I'm more introvert. Someone told me recently I'm a social introvert, which means, I can be very social. However, I need my me time more often than not. And I think that's pretty accurate. If I get my me time for like a day before a game, I'll be fine to run my game. But if I feel like I've been going and going and going for 10 days straight with no me time, that's when I struggle, I think. And obviously running games, whether it's online or in person, does not help that me time. So, Tyler says, I feel that. Sometimes people are great. Sometimes alone time is greater. Yeah, I used to insist on, oh yeah, Mephits. Yeah, those are cool. I agree. I haven't used them either. I think even when I met Paula, she didn't understand this when we met, but I used to tell her all the time, I need like a day or two a week, just completely like play video games, zone out, not be involved in anything. Used to tell her that all the time. Like that was a huge hurdle, I think, for us in the beginning, but for me that was very important. And I didn't usually get it, honestly, but as time's gone on, I think she's understood it, and she sees how cranky I am when I don't get it. So she understands and gives it to me sometimes. I was also classified as a social introvert last test. Yeah, somebody told me I was that, and it made complete sense to me. I haven't been tested or anything like that. Duane says, when I was younger, playing with friends, we'd game all day long. We'd take an hour to go get pizza, snacks, but would be together for 12 to 14 hours. So I've never run a game that long. I think the longest game I've run is maybe 5 hours with a break in the middle. Maybe? And that's in person. Online, I don't think I've run games very long. I think the most I've run is like 3.5 hours or something, maybe 4. And that's no break. The thing about online is you can have a very focused session. There's no side talk. There's no getting distracted by things. I mean, you get like a 5-minute break in the middle to go to the bathroom, get water, maybe get some snacks. But as a DM, yeah. The other thing, too, that I think works for me is because, like we were talking about earlier in the stream, the prepping to improvise rather than prepping story, I think can really lend itself to playing for longer periods of time. DMs who prep with a set story in mind, like if you go off the rails, it throws them off, I think. I've met a lot of DMs who it's like, well, if I didn't prep anything, we end the session. Like, I wouldn't. I would still run. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Let's see where this goes. And I like that idea. I love the idea of not knowing what's going to happen as a DM. Like, that's awesome. So, it was easy when we were young, just friends having fun together. That's the way it should be now, man. I know I stream a lot of my games, but I don't want people trying to play to the crowd or anything like that. I want them to do what they find fun. And the goal is for the group. If the group's not having fun, then there's no point in running the game. The Forgotten Throne game, we had Lady Tiefling. She left. She found an in-person game. Happened to be on the same nights as us. Just thought it would be more fun. All right, see ya. Have fun. No hard feelings. Thanks for being honest. I'm cool with it. Obviously, I'm disappointed. We liked having her. She's always welcome back. But, I'd rather people be honest. Like, if you're not feeling the game or you think you'd have more fun in this other game or whatever, no hard feelings. Just be honest. Don't lie to me about it. Don't say, oh, I don't want to play in this, or I'd love to play in this game, but my internet's not working, or oh, I'm whatever. Like, I have to work that night now. Like, don't do that. Just be honest with me. That's what I prefer. I'm a very transparent person. I know not everybody is. Tyler says, you pay for my ad-lib acting classes, and I won't get mad when you go off prepared material. So, what I was saying earlier is ways you can prep to improvise is like make a list of names by race and gender. Prep just random story hooks. You don't have to know what's going to happen, just sentences. Boom, boom, boom. There's a pirate that his ship sunk and he's been hanging around town lately looking for jobs. Rumor has it there's a farmer who's been using some type of ingredient on his crops that, is causing people to get sick. Like you could just throw all these different rumors on a page, right? And they can be even more vague than that. You know, rumor is that an industry nearby is, you know, like torturing people, you know, to get secrets, or I don't know. You know, you could do all sorts of stuff. Duane says the DMG and Donjon have some good tools for randomizing stuff. Easy to make a random encounter. 100%. I agree. Random encounter generator seems useful. Haven't used it in a game yet, though. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I would just have random hooks, you know, do that. The other thing I would do is I would, again, if you did random encounters like by monsters, reskin them. Players are in a city. They don't leave. Those wolves are now bandits. Same stats, same action, same everything. You just reflavor it. And give them mundane weapons. So that 1d6 is really a short sword, or it's a broken long sword, or, you know, it's a really sharp dagger. It's a +1 dagger, you know, rather than whatever. Give them some gold. You know, I would happily run improv D&D all the time. I would do it every night. Well, see, here I am biting stuff off more than I can chew. I would run campaigns if players were completely open to the idea of no plan and it's just improv. I did not. It was over. You put it over there? It's okay. I don't need it right now. I'm streaming right now. I'll look at the mail later, though. Thank you. Tyler said adventure story or clips from local Florida newspapers. See? There you go.
I don't remember where the mail is.
It's okay, buddy. Go watch your show. In fact, can you turn your volume down? Duane says the pirate is hunting down the farmer as his crew all went mad from eating the food from the farmer. See, now you're combining two of the rumors, and that's good stuff. That's what you do. Now you got a story. Tyler says pirates, poisoned drops, giant lizards, assault by chicken. That's just Florida. Oh, Florida, why are you so crazy? All right, so I'm going to go get some water real quick. I'm going to put up my screen. Feel free to ask some more questions. It's not going to be but a minute. My throat's just getting a little dry at this moment. And I will be back in like 2 minutes. All right. Back. Told you it wouldn't take long. Got an apple. Refilled my water. Got an apple because it's nice and juicy, right? It'll help me out. So, improvising stuff. I think I like to do that anyways in campaigns sometimes, where I'll have a session where I don't really want to advance the story for whatever reason. And it might not be that it has nothing to do with leveling up because I do milestones, but it might be that I'm not ready for the advancement of what's going on. Duane says, I remember back in the day when there would be months of in-game downtime between adventures. I liked that. I actually like that too. Nice and juicy. I like that idea. I like the idea of letting characters start businesses and stuff like that. Now, I don't want a whole campaign around that. But to add to a character, I like it. To add a little bit of a backdrop to the story, I like it. It also allows you as a DM to target something, to destroy something, to take away something they love. Crafting rules for creating items that they want, also really cool. All for it. Completely all for it. All right, let's see what's going on Twitter. I'm enjoying this stream today. I feel like this one got into the good stuff far quicker than yesterday's. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time talking about system stuff, which was fun, but I don't know if it's as fun for you guys. You know what I mean? Got a question here. What are people buying with their stimulus checks? My answer, groceries. That's it. I'm not buying squat. Someone said sports cards. Someone else said time, stocks, gold, ammo. I'm going to save it. I'm so broke right now. Someone said Bitcoin. Is that still a thing? I don't even know. Bills and debt, mortgage payment. I'm surprised people are still buying Bitcoin. I thought that was not a good investment anymore. I don't know. All right, Duane says, it was nice because during the breaks, the players could contact the DM and say, I'd like to do this little side quest. It just adds to the depth of the game. 100% agree with that. Duane says, sorry I got here late. The gravity well, which is my bed, was strong. I was laying in bed right before I went live too. Trying to mentally get ready to be social. It worked out really well. My wife on her lunch break took the kids outside, or at least Caleb outside. It was nice. Gabe went to bed a little bit early today, but I didn't want to go live at noon. As far as I know, he's still asleep. That's almost 4 hours now. You know. Is there something that you wish one of your players would bring to the game, but they never have? What do you mean by bring to the game? Like a physical thing or something in-game? I wish my players would bring me presents every game. No, I'm kidding. We used to have a rule that players would bring snacks and beverages, and we would provide dinner for everybody. So when people showed up, we'd eat. We'd have like pizza or spaghetti or whatever. Everyone would eat. We'd get the snacks ready, and we'd start playing. The snacks would sit off to the side until people started wanting them. Some players would bring the most unhealthiest snacks. Candy, beef jerky, things like that. When we would have to bring snacks, we would do like fruit trays, veggie trays. I used to request that people bring veggie trays too sometimes if I knew they tended to bring unhealthy snacks.
You're talking to the girl?
I'm talking to my chat. It's just a bunch of people talking. You got to be able to read to see it, though.
Can you read?
Can I read?
Yeah.
Of course I can.
Can you read it?
I have been reading it every time something cool comes up. So Duane says, it was deliberately an open question. So in game, I love the idea of cohesive groups.
Wait, do we have that one folder?
Yes. Yep. Go play though.
Oh, it's weird, but I'm not allowed to play it with.
Right. I'll come hang out with you in a minute, okay? After I'm done with this.
Can I play with like the
Yes.
folder that's on that?
Yes.
Is that like one and an adult?
We'll let you do it eventually. Maybe soon. Maybe sooner rather than later. So what I mean by a cohesive group, all dwarven party, all cleric of life party, or whatever. Like where every character has a same one theme that's the same. You know, they're all fighters, they're all wizards, they're all this, they're all that. All dwarves, all elves. And so I used to offer rewards if the players came up with something like that. I would try to say, in fact, I had all elves once, so I gave them all feet at first level. You know? I thought that was something cool that I could do for them since they all were choosing to be elves. Duane says, at my home games, we'd plan a meal. We're doing spaghetti, so who can bring garlic bread, who's bringing salad, who's bringing drinks? Yeah, we used to kind of do that, except we did the garlic bread and the spaghetti. We would then expect someone to bring sodas and flavored water and then some snacks for later, right? And it wouldn't just be on one person. We had a couple people that sometimes decided to do it all. No, it's fine. But as the DM, I always wanted to host the game. I don't want to go to someone's house if I'm DMing. I don't have to bring my miniatures, all my books, all my stuff. Especially since for me, I do a lot right up to the last minute. Like I'll do my prep earlier the week, but 2 hours before game, until a game starts, I usually, or used to, I don't do this now, but I'd be there going over my notes, adding things, writing down stats, whatever. Now, lately, it seems like 20 minutes before game, and then I go sit down and do what I need to do. But I used to be all over that. Hey, Caleb. Duane says, reading is cool, little buddy. Ask your daddy to show you how to read. Story time is fun. That's what he said. Yeah, we've been reading to him a little more. We need to do better. He wants us to read more. Just sometimes we don't do it. We're not good at that. Feel terrible about it. Both of us do. Duane says, I hope to play in a game of rogues sometime before I die. Like all rogues, that might be kind of fun. Duane says, it's good to keep the work light for the host. Everyone's expected to clean up. Yeah, I'm always the one that cleans up. Doesn't matter who runs the game. If it's Paula, me, somehow I get stuck cleaning most of the stuff up. How do you handle hit points in your games? Max at first, but after that, then what do you do? It depends. I'm very much like if my group really wanted max the whole time, I'd let them do that. But if we're doing max, I'm probably going to throw a lot more monsters at them and be really harsh on them. Run like meat grinder D&D on them. However, I usually go by the book with hit points. Max at first, they can do average or roll. But if they choose to roll, they have to do it, no matter what. There's no, I rolled a 1. Tough, you rolled. So I write down all the characters. Question is, what do you do with passive skill checks? So early in a campaign, I try to get a copy of all the player character sheets. Or I do have a sheet that's on my website. It's called a campaign sheet that has each player's information, race, class, hit points, armor class, passive skills, attributes, notes for like their abilities and stuff. And I try to fill that out. With that, though, I know what their passive skills are. So if they're traveling for 6 hours, I'm not going to make them make rolls. It's going to be based on passive skill checks. I actually like using passive skill checks more than rolling for things. Now, when they're in a dungeon, for example, I'm going to use the passive skill check. Unless it's something they are actively trying to do. Like they say, I want to try to sneak around the corner. All right, give me a stealth check. Or I want to see if there's a secret door. Okay, where are you looking? Are you looking on the north wall in the corner, more to the east? Okay, roll investigation. If there's no door there, they could roll a 20 and it won't matter. Even if that door is on the west wall, I'm not going to do it. I want more specific if you want to make a roll. Otherwise, we're using passive. And I don't want you to check every single inch of every room. That's annoying. And if you fail, I'm not, and it's clear based on your roll, and then another place, I want to check that wall too. I'll let them roll, just like my wife does. But even if they roll a 20, they're not going to find it. Because I just don't think it's fair to let everyone make the same roll just because you know the other people rolled poor. How do I handle a character when the player is missing from the table? So that's something we talk about in session 0. And even then, when it comes up in game, we ask the player if they're comfortable with someone controlling their character. How do they want to handle it? So in the Descent into Avernus game we have, Nate's missed a session, Jake's missed a session, and both times we've let another player control their character. When Nate missed, in fact, both times I think Luke controlled their character. Luke did a great job to make sure they didn't die. Making their characters run prematurely and things like that. But if it makes sense, maybe the character leaves. Maybe he's not there because he's doing something else. He's escorted a prisoner or a hostage out. Do you like everyone to make characters together during session 0? I do, personally. I don't mind if they make their characters by themselves, but before we play, I like to have a moment to talk about expectations in a session 0. Like, what do you want out of the session as a player? What do you want as a character? How do your characters know each other? I will probably never run a session where the characters don't know each other again. Bad experiences doing it. If I do it, it's got to be with players I really trust. And I'm pretty trusting of most of my players. But I think you need to sort that out up front. I think having a way for the characters to know each other up front makes the game a lot better. A lot better. We've used the Pathfinder book, Ultimate Campaign. They have notes on how characters know each other. We've used that to determine how players know each other in a lot of our campaigns. And it's been great. It's my preferred method. Oh, looks like Wally D left. He had fun in the stream. So thanks, Wally, if you're watching this later. And yeah, we're still going though. I love your questions, Duane. I love it. I think making your characters together can also make players change decisions they would normally do, and I don't like that. Like someone be like, oh, we already have the tank, so I don't want to be a tank also. Or we already have the guy who's going to do all the skill checks and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to make a guy who's good at skill checks. I don't like that. Or, oh, we have a healer. I don't want to make another healer. Or we don't have a healer. Someone needs to make a healer. I hate that discussion. Absolutely hate it. I hate when someone says, well, what should I make? What's already in the group? Characters are in the group. Like, just make something and we'll figure it out. I don't want people worrying about filling a role, right? Just make what you want to play. That's my preference. I agree. They don't all have to know each other, but everyone needs to know someone. Yes, so we do just around a circle. So the player on the left knows the one on the right, right? And because of one tie. Then that person knows the person to their right on one tie. And then the person on this end knows the first person, and that's it. That's as far as we go. So you know at least 2 people of the 4 in the group, or 2 of the 5 or 6 or whatever, but it's always at least 2 connections. It's hard talking into a mic by yourself. I'm glad to throw questions out to make your life easier. Yeah, it can be hard. I start slow too. Once I get going, I'm good. And I just like this format more because I feel like it's more social. It's more interaction with people rather than just, oh, I'm talking to a camera and a microphone about RPGs. So, anyways, Paula just texted me and said Gabe is awake. So I am going to hop off here. I got to go change his diaper, get him playing, and we'll see how he's feeling. But hopefully he's feeling energized. He just wants to get some milk and some food, and maybe he'll be entertained. If he is, maybe we'll go live again later. I don't know. Most likely not going to again. If we do, it would be later doing like miniature painting or something. But we'll see. So, Duane, thanks again for watching. Thanks for helping out with the questions. I really appreciate it. I might even scour the internet for some other questions because I'm going to do this again tomorrow. Hopefully some people will join up. If I can do it in the morning, I'd be interested in seeing what happens if I go earlier in the morning. But yeah. Duane says, I've been in games where a new character joins. If they're not known by someone in the group, then the group has no reason to trust them. 100%. And in fact, when they have a character who dies and a new one comes in, I don't actually force them to know somebody. Might have to think on doing that a little more moving forward because you're correct. Like, it's always a little bit more awkward. So, thanks. I'm going to have a good time with the family for sure. I might take them for a car ride just because I want to get out of the house personally. But yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe. Stay in your house. Like, if you don't have to go anywhere for anything, don't go to the store to pick up one thing. Like, wait till you really have to go. Stay in the house as much as possible. Go in your yards, but, stay away from people. Stay away from, going into other places. Just stay safe. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.